Welcome to my channel. Kailash, very good afternoon. I hope you're all enjoying and feeling good today. So, in the previous video, I covered about the concept of a chess plan, how to plan in chess, and this is the continuation of the previous video. Mainly, I'll be focusing on a concept called the relative strength of the pieces. Now, I'll get to what relative strengths of the pieces mean. But before, I would like to point out, you know, some misconceptions that beginners, one misconception that beginners are really have in their mind. You know, uh, they are very hesitant. Beginners are very hesitant to sacrifice a piece of higher value with a piece of a lower value. Because, for example, say a queen for a bishop. So a queen has 9 points and a bishop has 3 or 3.5 points, and they're very hesitant to sacrifice the queen for a lower value piece. Mainly because they feel that since it is worth 9 points and a bishop is worth only 3 or 3.5 points, why should I do it? It doesn't make any sense to me. Because I'm losing a piece of a higher value to a piece of a lower value, and I don't get anything in return. No compensation for that. It's like -6 is the value that I get in return. So why should I do it? But let me tell you one thing for all beginners, that chess is not maths. It is not an arithmetically assessed game. It is an intellectual game where you take into account logic, and you need to have analytical abilities because there is lots of complicated combinations where you need to think in depth. Maybe sometimes even games. I've heard that Castro thinks in depth up to 30 moves in depth. So it is a very tough game, and it's an intellectual game where you can take into account various factors like logic, analytical abilities, your understanding of the opening, the middle game, the end game, and so on. So you cannot assess just by mere arithmetically saying that I have a piece of higher value and why should I give it a piece of a lower value. That's not the way to assess chess. That misconception should be removed from your mind at any cost. Because if you have that assumption or that concept in your mind, and if you play chess, you're only going to get lost, and you will get defeated all the time. So that's not the way to do it. So let me clear this misconception and make you understand how to make a favorable exchange. So in the sense, a bishop for a bishop, sometimes the beginners feel it's good to go for because they are both of equal values. So say like a pawn for a pawn, a knight for a knight. But whenever it comes to two different pieces, a piece of higher value versus a piece of lower value, they tend to hesitate to go for an exchange. So I would like to remove this conception. See, in chess, it all depends upon the position. The relative strength of the pieces means the position, the placement of your pieces over the board. See, the chessboard is not empty. You have your opponent's pieces as well as your pieces placed on both the sides. So whenever you place a piece in the center, it is said to have more influence. When you say influence, I mean more control over the board. Because, for example, imagine that a knight was placed in the center here. It would cover, 8 different squares. Here, 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 C6, C7, D6, D4, C3, E3, G4. If a knight was in the center, it moves in L shape. I hope you know that. Sorry, here. So F4, E3, and 8 squares. Whereas if a knight is placed here on the H1 square, it only controls 2 squares. So look at the mobility that a piece has got when it is placed in the center of the board. You very clearly see that it becomes more powerful when it is in the center than when it is on the edge of the board. Even a king. If a king is placed on H1, it can only control H2, G2, and G1, 3 squares. Whereas when it is placed in the center, it can control E6, D6, C6, C5, C4, D4, E4, and E5. 3 plus 3, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares in the control of the king. So whenever you place any piece in the center, be it a pawn or be it a powerful piece like a queen, it definitely has more control than you place it on the edge of the board. Of course, we can't say a pawn can be placed on the edge of the board because once it reaches the first rank or the 8th rank, it becomes a queen or a rook or anything of your choice. Apart from a pawn, any pieces, when you place it in the center, it becomes really powerful. So that's what I call by mobility. That's what mobility means. And the next thing which I'll take, so I already said two factors. One is by the placement of the pieces, and then the arrangement of the pieces. What I mean by arrangement of the pieces is, when you assess a position, you cannot just go on with your own plan and say that I have my pieces in the center, I can go ahead and attack the black or the white king. So you have to take into account the placement of your opponent's pieces as well. So opponent is also trying equally like you. He's also trying to fight for the center. He's also naturally trying to get more control over the board. So you should also take into account the incoming threats, the placement of the pieces that your opponent has, in order to understand the relative strength of two pieces. When I say relative, what do you mean by relative? It means comparison. Comparison between two pieces. It could be a piece of same value, or it could also be a piece of higher value versus a piece of lower value. So these are 2 points which comes under relative strength of pieces. Now, one other thing is, yes, a piece can become much more powerful in the end game, because in end game there are only very few pieces left on the board. So there are a lot of space to move, and any piece can become really powerful. Even a pawn can become really menacing for the opponent, because in the pawn it is free to move forward, and it can become a queen once it reaches the 8th rank, or once it reaches the 1st rank if you're playing black. So say that in the end game you don't have any rooks left for a queen, you have just 3 pawns and a king, and whereas your opponent has got 1 king and 1 rook. No, it could be really menacing, because the 3 pawns sometimes is much more stronger than a rook, because it can move forward as connected passed pawns. Passed pawns are nothing but they are not blocked by, say that in this case, I can call this f4 pawn a passed pawn if this f3 pawn wasn't there. Because this passed pawn cannot be stopped by any other pawns on the adjacent sides. On the E file and the G file, there are no pawns. This pawn has already moved to E4 square, so it cannot stop it. And there are no, imagine if f3 pawn was not there, then it can simply queen. So you can call this f4 pawn a passed pawn. So similarly, 2 to 3 pawns in the 2 to 3 passed pawns versus a rook in the endgame can really be menacing for the opponent, because sometimes that is really powerful and that can promote to a queen. So we should not assess chess arithmetically. I mean, it is not maths. It's a sport that demands a lot of understanding, logic. You apply your logic, you apply your common sense, and analytical abilities and understanding too. So this is one misconception that many beginners have, and in this video I created this video mainly to remove this misconception from the mind of the kids. This is especially seen in kids, because they are still learning, and they have this conception in mind. They tend to assess it arithmetically. Why should I sacrifice my queen for a bishop or a knight? See, if it can give you a better position, if you can checkmate your king by sacrificing your queen, then you should go for it. So that is one thing which I would like to convey in this video. Another thing which I would like to mention is that I will show you another example, and you need to tell me what it is exactly that you have understood. See, take a look at this position now. Now, in this position, you can see that white does not have any pawns. He has his king on g2. He has his king on g2. His knight on g5. His bishop on c4. Whereas black has his king on g8, 3 pawns on f7, g7, h7, and a rook on f8. Now, my question to you people is, can we sacrifice this knight and this bishop on f7? Because in return, say that after knight takes f7, I'll play that move for you. Rook takes f7, bishop takes f7, king takes f7. Now, finally, you can see the position. White has got no pawns and black has got 2 pawns. And like I said, these are 2 passed pawns. Especially, these are called, to be specific, these are called connected passed pawns, because they both move forward together by getting support from each other. They complement each other. So this is called as connected passed pawns. You will understand more about in-game things when I bring more videos on that. So let's not go into that right now. Let's focus on this. So here, was this sacrifice really good for white? Was it favorable? So the main idea, which what I wanted to convey by bringing this concept called relative strength of pieces, is that I wanted beginners to understand whether an exchange is favorable for us or not. How do we decide it? I hope you understood. In the previous case, I hope you recall this video where we made a check like this on h7, forced the king to move back to say d8 for example, king e6, king e8, rook to d7, king f8, rook takes d6, bishop takes d6, king takes d6, and you know that the rest is easy. You can snatch the other 2 points and white wins this game. So here, the exchange which we made, we sacrificed a piece of higher value such as a rook, 3 points for the bishop, 1 point for the pawn. So we got only 4 points in return after sacrificing a rook which is worth 5 points. So, but still we were able to win this game. So this is what I wanted to convey. So you need not hesitate to sacrifice like this to a piece of higher value to a piece of lower value, because in chess everything depends upon the position, not the material. Material is secondary in chess. You need to understand that. So beginners need to understand this and remove this misconception in their mind. So this is one example which we earlier saw. Now this is another example which I wanted you to understand. Yeah. So tell me guys, whether this is a good way of sacrificing your pieces. Is it favorable for us to sacrifice a knight and a bishop for a rook and a pawn? We'll get 6 points. It's 6 points back after getting 6 after sacrificing 6 points. So it's equal. 6 for 6. I would definitely say it is wrong, because black has still 2 pawns left, and he can simply push these pawns forward with the support from the king and promote both the pawns to a queen, or at least one of these pawns to a queen for sure. So and then mate white's king. So definitely that sacrifice is wrong. I'm not saying that this is a position which I took to make you understand the concept of the relative strength of pieces. Don't take literally and tell me that this position is really seriously win for black. I just wanted to convey the idea. This may be win for a black, but with the 2 pieces on the board, say if you don't sacrifice a knight and bishop, and if you continue to play without sacrificing it, it could take some time for black to win the game. At least you can delay the defeat. Definitely you can delay the defeat. Even after, no, imagine that even after sacrificing you, just in case, as for the sake of this example, and imagine that even after sacrificing the piece, you get one more pawn in return. Say the h7 pawn, somehow you managed to capture this pawn, and only one pawn was left, the g7 pawn. So even after that, it still remains to be seen that how white is going to continue this game. Well, definitely he cannot win this game because he has no pieces left, but at least a draw, at least to hold the position. It is very difficult to say that white can at least draw this position. So what I mean by saying this kind of assessment, so in this case, the exchange is not favorable for us. So that's what we understand. And so we should definitely decline this exchange and play something else. So I hope you understood what I mean by the relative strength of pieces. So let's not look at all these positions materialistically and try to understand the position and apply logic and then analyze using our analytical capabilities and then make a move. So that's it, guys. If you have any doubts or anything, please post it in the comments, and give a thumbs up if you like this video, and do subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot. It's Vishnu signing off from Kailash. Take care of yourself. Bye, guys.